This is a one-page product marketing plan template. It's available for free as a Word document in the link in the description. Let's get started. So the first thing that you need to consider, and this is something that a lot of marketers ignore, is the desired outcomes. They jump straight into the strategy without knowing where it is they're trying to go, because the strategy is really only useful as a means to achieve outcomes. The first thing that you want to determine is the primary goal for your marketing plan. And there are two components to this. One is the quantitative outcome. So it might be something like generate $500,000, generate $1 million, generate enough money to retire, capture a certain amount of market share, or if you're selling a product where the price per unit is pretty much the same with you and your competitors, then your goal might be just sell 10,000 units, 1 million units, etc. The other component of your primary goal is not just the quantitative outcome, but it's the deadline. So you need some sort of constraint on when you expect to reach that deadline. So for example, generate $100,000 in pipeline this quarter, or this half year, or by the end of the year. Now, not all of your objectives are going to fall into that primary goal, so you want to put in secondary objectives. So these may be something related to humanitarian efforts. It may be something like increasing your brand awareness as kind of a long-term objective, even though your short-term objective is really generating immediate sales. Next, you have individual OKRs. So the different people in your marketing department, including yourself, should have objectives and key results. And they may have a number that are assigned to each person that's working with you. Now, after you have a sense of what the desired outcomes are, either for the quarter or the half year or for the entire year, or perhaps you even have a longer term time frame that you're dealing with, you want to work out who your target market is and define that target market. And the most important consideration is the target customers. So most marketers, they recognize this. They realize that they need to understand who the target customers are. But there are a few big mistakes that happen here. One is defining the customers in ways that are easy but don't really matter. So for example, creating a persona, Jill, she's 27 years old, she lives in North Dakota, and her dog and cat don't get along. These kinds of narratives usually don't matter. Sometimes they do. So if you're selling a product that is only used by men or only used by women, then demographics matter, but a lot of the time they don't. The kinds of things that matter are correlated with how they derive value. So things like the type of industry that they're in, or in consumer markets, it's how frequently they fly, or the fact that they're impatient, or they get very irritated because a certain piece of software doesn't work. So those types of things, they're harder to target and identify, but those kinds of behavioral and motivational variables are the things that really determine who your strategic target customer group is. The other thing you want to work out is who the subsegments are. So you may have a very strong bullseye target of people that really love your product. They're going to get a lot of value out of it. But then there may be a larger market of people that are a little bit slower to adopt, but really comprise the bulk of where your revenue is going to be after their first few years. Other subsegments are going to be different types of industries and different behavioral groups. So it may be current customers that use your product a lot versus consumers that are using your product infrequently. So maybe they only log in once a month versus every single day. So there are many different ways to subsegment the customer groups depending on what you're doing. Are you focusing on current customers? Are you focusing on prospective customers? Are you trying to build a business-to-business pipeline? Or are you trying to do massive consumer acquisition with a freebie? Okay, so the other big thing that people miss is the target partners. So your target market is not just the customers that you want to use the product. It's not just the end users. It's also the partners that you work with. Super, super important. So a single partnership with another business could mean the difference between spending 10 years reaching your target and being able to do it in 1 or 2 years. You also want to partner with people that are a similar size to you. It's often easier getting a partner relationship going with a company of the same size. It's also critical to get key influencers, so groups of people that have a strong influence on your target customers. These may be Instagram celebrities, but not always. Sometimes they're lawyers, sometimes they're accountants. Sometimes they're actual customers of yours that just happen to be very vocal and have a strong share of voice. If you really want your product to go viral, if you really want efficient customer acquisition, then you need to give partners strategic weight. They are part of your target market. Another important factor in the target market is market conditions. So if there are certain regulatory conditions that are changing, if suddenly a lot of businesses in your industry are going bankrupt, maybe there was a collapse in the economy in a certain geography you're working in, you have to make note of these changing conditions. These are not always negative. Sometimes it's positive. So maybe there's a sudden surge in demand for what you're selling that it really has nothing to do with what you did, but just a change that happened in the market. The second key component of your marketing strategy is going to be your value propositions. This is how you create value in the market, particularly for your customers, but also for your target partners. So you need to create value in different ways. The way that you determine your value proposition is by starting with the benefits that you are producing. So this might be time savings, and it might be monetary savings, or it might be incremental profit, it might be speed, it could be any number of things. Ideally, you can quantify these. So for example, you save your customers 100 hours a week, you are able to increase efficiency of lighting systems by $100,000 per factory. These types of things are key components of your value proposition. The other thing I want to point out is that your value proposition is not just one point. It's not just one benefit or one feature. It is a cluster of things that create value. Later, when you start getting into your messaging strategy and your positioning, that's when you focus on one aspect. But at the strategic stage, you really need to look at the various ways that you create value. So after looking at the benefits, or simultaneously with looking at the benefits, you want to look at the features. So a big mistake I see in a lot of market messaging is too much emphasis on benefits that customers don't care about, because often the way you create value is really at the feature level. So try to highlight the key features that your product has, specifically focusing on the ones that are unique or not yet on the market, because these may be creating more value than you realize. Competitor benefits is another thing you want to look at. So the fact that you automate spreadsheets or the fact that you save time is important, but it's important in the context of a competitive market. So customers don't really value the value you create if it's not above and beyond what competitors can do. You also want to look at the competitors' features. Are they comparable to what you have? And are the reviews of competitors' products talking about those features in a good way, or are they really not functioning the way that your competitors promise? And the last thing that you want to do is highlight what the positioning is going to be. So this is usually one or maybe several benefits, features, product attributes that you're going to emphasize in your messaging. And the reason you're going to do that is because you want to secure a position in the minds of the customer. Now, the positioning is a little bit tricky because we're talking about psychology here. It's about securing a psychological position by changing your messaging. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's the way that you actually create value, because the way that you communicate value isn't necessarily the way that value is created in a technical way. So this is the difference between the strategic level marketing and the more tactical communications level marketing that people are more familiar with in advertising. Next, we get into the tactics. So there are basically 7 marketing tactics, not the 4 Ps. That's a little bit of an archaic model, but this is a more modern version. First is price. Price, incredibly important because it dictates supply and demand. If your price is too high, you're going to see your sales plummet. If your price drops, you're going to see a surge in your sales. Of course, there are a few exceptions to this, like luxury markets that people always highlight, but by and large, customers are incredibly price sensitive. Do not underestimate the price sensitivity of customers. Incentives matter. So are there special promotions that happen, such as discounts, that are going to motivate time-sensitive responses from customers? Your distribution, incredibly important. Where are you selling your product? Are you on the shelves at a retailer? Are you at Walmart? Are you on Amazon? Are you on Salesforce App Exchange? How are people finding out about you? Are you selling directly to consumers? This has become increasingly important, especially with companies that are starting on Shopify, with a lot of retailers that want to sell directly to customers through the internet. Communication. Communication is usually what people think of when they think of marketing, but marketing is much more than that. Communication is things like your landing page. It's things like your advertisements, your Facebook posts, your LinkedIn content marketing, the content and case studies that you're sending through Outreach or through Marketo or through HubSpot. Your product, what are the specific features? What are the add-ons? What are the new releases that you're putting out? What is the different about the new packaging that is going to go out this year versus last year? The services that are added onto your product. Is it that you have an exceptional warranty, an excellent customer success team, customer service that's 24/7? In certain markets, the services that are tied to your product may actually be more important than differentiating the product itself, because if you have to make a non-strategic purchase and you're looking at two different suppliers of a product that basically create value in the same way, they're basically the same price, what they're going to look at is the service add-ons. Can they get access to customer support quickly? Is there some sort of guarantee that eliminates the risk for them? Very, very important. Brand. So brands actually create value above and beyond what the product does. So brands often create value that is intangible. So it's things like, I feel good because this brand is fun and I feel more fun using this product. Or maybe the brand is just a signal. So maybe because it has a yellow sticker in the logo, it's an indication of price. So brand really helps support the other tactics in your marketing mix. Now, the last part of your product marketing plan is the execution. So product marketing managers are the hub of marketing, and the different spokes are the specialists. So one of the most important things is that you take ownership of the execution. That means having a marketing asset calendar. So a calendar that shows month by month, week by week, quarter by quarter, what assets are getting released, what marketing assets are being produced. You got to make sure all that stuff's in sync, because you need to align the demand generation, the performance marketing, the content marketing, the social media gurus, the contractors, the SEO people. You got to get them all on the same page, and the easiest way to do that is with the calendar. Execution is also about optimization. So this is where growth marketing plays a strong role. Things like A/B tests, multivariate tests, very important. Measuring success after launch is also very important. So you need to be looking at whether you're on track to reach those goals that we set at the beginning, and the various sub-objectives that you set for yourself. And lastly, during the execution, what you're going to notice is that conditions change. Competitors release new products, new features. You're going to be surprised by different things that happen, either internally, externally, with your customers. You got to take note of this, and you need to respond quickly to it. So this is it. It's a one-page product marketing template, very easy to use, very easy to fill out. Just download it from the link in the description, and happy product marketing.